Hello and welcome to JSB Talks Digital, the podcast for marketers, digital transformation champions, and those of you bringing your skills into the digital age. I'm Joanne Sweeney-Burke and this podcast is brought to you by Digital Training Institute. In this episode, number 83, I talk about the role of leadership in digital transformation. Coming up in today's show, in social media news, Facebook updates the newsfeed algorithm. Is this the end of organic reach? Facebook announces new music partnership and say hello to Google Pay. I interview Paul Pryor, Managing Director of FTI Consulting. Shoutouts, 3 digital transformation case studies, Ask JSB, in JSB's column, Why Digital Transformation Starts with Decision Makers, and find out what social media tool saved my working week.
Social media news.
So what did you think about the Facebook newsfeed announcement last week? If you missed it, you might want to check out the post from Mark Zuckerberg about what he calls bringing people closer together. Many marketers, just like me, weren't so surprised with the implications of what he said because organic reach has been reducing like the 2008 economic crash for quite a while. I've been saying for 18 months that we need to pay to play on Facebook, but it seems we may now need to pay all the way for results. Mr. Zuckerberg announced that posts from media and publishers would be deprioritized in favour of posts from people with meaningful content. So what does it mean for page admins? Here's my 5-point Tuppensworth. Number 1, it's time to review your content marketing plan in its entirety. 2, set aside a budget for Facebook ads and start developing your Facebook ads strategy. 3, think about your online marketing from your customer's perspective, not your sales perspective. 4, listen to the experts and make sure it's an expert you're actually listening to. And finally, number 5, Facebook is just one channel, but your entire marketing strategy shouldn't be based on it. Eggs and baskets come to mind. Facebook has announced new partnerships to enable sharing of music content with Universal and Sony, which will be added as part of Facebook's new Sound Collection audio library. The move will allow Facebook publishers to share more engaging creative video using popular music and other favourite genres. They've also announced a deal with Global Music Rights, which represents a range of popular artists including Pharrell Williams, Bruno Mars, Drake, and Bruce Springsteen. This is great news for publishers just like me, as we can now add music to our videos and other content, including lives, without infringing copyright and subsequently having our posts taken down. Say hello to Google Pay. Google has announced the merger of all its different payment services to create Google Pay. Android users may already be familiar with Android Pay and Google Wallet. With the new system, payment information saved in your Google account will be available everywhere you use Google products. In Chrome for web purchases, in YouTube for renewing your subscriptions, in apps on Android for in-app purchases, and at retail outlets with near-field communication payments. According to Google, apps like Airbnb already support Google Pay, with more sites and stores set to roll out soon over the coming weeks.
Interview.
In this episode, I interview Paul Pryor, Managing Director of FTI Consulting. I met Paul at Pendulum Summit in Dublin, where Richard Branson was speaking. Paul and I took the opportunity to have a sideline conversation about digital transformation and the role of leadership in this process. Pendulum Summit is a major personal development event hosted by Frankie and Norma Sheehan. Paul, meanwhile, is a senior executive with more than a decade of experience in defining, leading and executing sustainable business performance improvement for global corporations. He has extensive experience in strategy formation and accelerated execution in innovation, digital, analytics, regulation, and operating excellence, and he's worked across Ireland, the UK, the USA, South Africa, and Canada.
JSB Talks Digital.
So we're here at the Pendulum Summit in Dublin 2018. It's Breakthrough to Brilliance. Now, I haven't dragged one of the speakers off the stage. In fact, I'm going to speak to Paul Pryor, who's the Managing Director of FTI Consulting. Paul is involved in digital transformation, working with Fortune 500 companies, public sector, to bring digital into their businesses. Paul, you're welcome to JSB Talks Digital.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm very interested in digital transformation, but particularly around leadership. Yeah. In my experience, it begins with the leader. Yeah. And if digital transformation is to happen, then it's important that they are the people that, implement it, and they are the visionaries. Yeah. What's your experience?
So what I would probably suggest in the clients that we work with is that they're stuck in a rut. So their businesses are structured for a business that no longer exists. That's 2 decades ago or 3 decades ago was probably appropriate, but is no longer appropriate to modern society, for want of a better phrase. Their customers and employees want different things from them, which includes better ways to leverage technology to do their jobs more efficiently, and also better ways to engage with their client population. And in both of these instances, it starts with the human process within the organisation itself, and the human process is currently broken.
And of course, we're hearing a lot about the human process here at Pendulum Summit. What about public sector organisations? Now, some people might argue that the bottom line is not really their motivation. How can you work with leaders who are employed in their organisation and maybe don't have the vision that an entrepreneur has?
I think the first thing to do is to remove your own bias in how you judge these organisations, because they're still full of human beings who on an individual level want the same things we all need. So they want to feel important within the role that they're doing, like they're progressing forward within the organisations that they're working with, and they define success in whatever way is important to themselves. So the first step is to not bring these implicit biases we have towards public sector companies into that organisation.
Now, we were both talking about how remarkable our own children are when it comes to communicating with us in the digital age and their natural abilities to use digital for themselves. Do we have to retrain humans then?
I wouldn't say we need to retrain them, but we need to change their perspectives towards how they engage with it. So I think people in general have a fear of the unknown, and that's no different for employees that have been working with paper, for example, over the last 2 decades. Their immediate response when a new technology solution comes into their organisation is, well, I don't know how to use that, and that natural fear freezes them from moving forward with regards to what that role will see. So a lot of the time, there's an enormous amount of anxiety around what technology will mean for these people. Oh, it's the end of jobs and we'll all have to retrain ourselves. I don't believe that's necessarily true. I think it'll actually enhance their ability to do their current job and also put them in a position where they can work on things that they're more interested in doing. So they'll be doing much more high value activity, which naturally leads to feeling more important, which naturally leads to you feeling like you're progressing forward within your roles.
And let's talk about then the digital transformation systems, the new processes that we might implement in organisations. Yeah. You work a lot in analytics and developing new processes. Are people afraid of that data as well? Does it make them more accountable, or what is the fear around data?
No one understands it. So that's the first thing when you talk about people's data. Firstly, they don't trust it because they realise themselves that they've been entering it in for the last 20 years, and what they've been entering in they can't really stand over. So the first step in anything like that is to give them comfort with regards to what you're trying to achieve, and then create an accurate source that you can actually begin to create insight from. And it's all about starting small, like everything, and using proof of concepts to generate confidence. Then on the back of that, you change behaviours. When people see their peers changing their behaviours and seeing the ownership and responsibility that they take for those behaviours, they naturally want to move towards that, because I certainly feel that most organisations change over the water cooler in the canteen. They don't necessarily change in boardrooms, although that's typically where, as you said yourself, the seed is planted for that type of change within an organisation. So if your friend group within an organisation is starting to act a certain way, you naturally start to act towards that more sentence.
So if we use the analogy of an organisation similar to like a ship floating on the sea, and you have senior leadership who are reluctant to engage in digital transformation, and then you have a younger generation and digital and technology is just natural to them, there's a bit of a wobble there, isn't there? Something's got to give. What gives, or what's going to give?
So I think, certainly from my perspective, the younger population need to learn how to sell it to the older population. And you need to put much the same as you have expectations of your leaders that they'll walk in your shoes. I think it's fair for them to have expectations that you also need to walk in their shoes.
But the leaders might be afraid that they're going to take off their shoes and step into them permanently.
Yeah, and that's no different to any other change that you bring within an organisation. But the truth of the matter is, as a CEO's lifetime these days is about 5 years. They typically have a legacy they want to leave on the back of that. If you can attach a digital strategy to that legacy, you're already starting in a good place. So you need to think through the eyes and perspective of the person that you're trying to sell your idea to.
Okay, I know this is a tough question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What one digital transformation leadership tip would you give to somebody who's perhaps watching or listening to this?
I think it's look inwards before you look outwards. Digital transformation requires you to change as an individual first before the organisation will change around that. And we can all, that's why we're here today, I think we can all take some time out to understand how we can change to better ourselves and therefore better our organisations.
Paul Pryor of FTI Consulting, thank you so much, and delighted to have you on JSB Talks Digital.
Thanks very much. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Shoutouts.
In this part of the show, I give shoutouts to brands, organisations, or individuals whose work online is remarkable and worth talking about. In this episode, I'm giving shoutouts to 3 organisations that have embraced digital transformation with gusto. According to Cisco, by 2020, there will be 50 billion internet-enabled devices, which create an interconnected Internet of Things. These devices already exist and include mobile phones, connected cars, home assistants, and fitness tractors, which, let's be honest, are now common day but invaluable.
1.
The UK Met Office operates under the auspices of the government's Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. Their digital transformation story has 3 core elements. One of the biggest challenges the Met Office has always faced is differentiating itself in a competitive market. Recent growth in new technology, an explosion of mobile apps, APIs, and even voice search means data around weather has become much more accessible. In the face of stiff competition, the Met Office set out to achieve a point of difference, focusing much more heavily on its content marketing efforts through storytelling. One of the first steps was to determine exactly what everyday consumers want from the Met Office. Turning to analytics, it soon found that the answer is not simply data, but, as Simon Swan describes it, the what, the why, the where, the when that surrounds it. Secondly, the Met Office approached video as an effective tool, along with creating a mobile app that helped to differentiate itself from competitors. This is a very real issue for public sector organisations that find themselves competing with YouTubers and bloggers. The Met Office also optimised content based on different audience segments, pushing out tailored infographics, videos and blogs geared to people interested in seasonal or timely events such as Glastonbury Festival or the pollen season. And finally, the Met Office began to collaborate and share digital education across their organisation. This meant the digital marketing team working closely with everyone from scientists and forecasters to the observation and graphics department.
2.
One of Ireland's flagship banks, Bank of Ireland, wanted to develop a retail experience on the campus of Dublin City University that would scale. The bank wanted to deploy interactive services and digital signage into its DCU branch to engage more effectively with first-time account holders and to give them a better customer experience. The solution was provided by BT, working with its partners to deliver a rich multimedia experience. The results? A new kind of retail banking. From the moment students interact with the screens, they engage with the bank in a way that can be measured and used to continually improve their customer experience.
3.
Foreign exchange company Travelex's approach to digital transformation is what I want to share from their experience. They believe that you can't outsource what is core and strategic, and new capabilities lead to new products that become growth engines over time. Here are their key principles. Emphasize the long game while racking up quick wins. Talk about speed, agile, failure, new capabilities, ways of working, and collaboration like it's going out of fashion. Avoid the cool kids in the corner syndrome. Be humble. Communicate, communicate, communicate. And they say digital transformation is both horizontal and vertical. Avoid creating a digital silo. Integration and engagement across your organization is absolutely critical. If you want to read these case studies in full, be sure to log on to the blog post associated with this podcast at digitaltraining.ie.
Ask JSB.
This week I gave a presentation to a board of directors on their role in digital transformation, and here is one question that emerged from that meeting. Do we need to hire a complete new cohort of staff if we decide to embrace digital transformation fully? I've chosen this question because it is one that I am asked frequently by decision makers who openly admit that digital and technology is not their area of expertise. My answer is no. I always appeal to organisations to look at their existing staff complement and their skill set. In this case, it was a radio station. A company full of talented content creators, skilled journalists and reporters, experienced in communications and also experienced in representing the brand of that organisation. So if you're a decision maker in digital transformation, look to your own team first, do a skills audit, develop a training programme, and then and only then look at what new team members you may need to hire. Everybody's role in every organisation is transforming right now, so you need to start from within before going without. Don't forget, if you have a burning social media or digital marketing question, simply click on digitaltraininginstitute.ie/askjsb and leave me a voicemail. You can also send me your question to any of our social networks.
JSB's column.
In today's JSB column, I want to share my thoughts on why digital transformation starts with decision makers. I am currently writing my book on digital transformation in the public sector with a focus on communications. So, looking at all aspects of digital comms, PR, social media, traditional marketing and campaigns, reputation management, policy communications, event management and digital marketing. I've been working with organisations of every size for the past 10 years on their communication strategies, but things have changed and are changing very fast. If you fail to embrace digital this year with a comprehensive strategy and a roadmap to help you achieve your objectives, you will be yet another year behind the digital curve. You have to be best in class when it comes to digital. You have to be wholly customer-centric, and that means having a mobile-first mindset, tracking the journey of your customer and giving them the content they are searching for online. Let's have a look at some figures which tell a story in themselves for decision makers. 56% of executives believe that a lack of digital leadership to define a clear and concise strategy is one of the key barriers when it comes to delivering an improved customer experience through digital transformation. 88% of companies report that they are undergoing digital transformation. Meanwhile, 85% of enterprise decision makers say they have set a time frame of 2 years to make significant inroads into digital transformation, or they admit they will suffer financially and fall behind their competitors. Finally, 25% of companies have a clear understanding of new and underperforming digital touchpoints. In other words, many companies report they are undergoing digital transformation, even though most don't know how to go about it. This is the dilemma for decision makers. However, without decision makers giving the green light and the investment for digital transformation, it's simply not going to happen. Here are my 7 steps when approaching a digital transformation project with a client. Remember, my transformation projects focus exclusively on transforming traditional marketing, PR, or communication teams into digitally agile departments. Leadership and strategy, followed by people and culture. Then I look at customer and experience before taking on data and insights. And then we introduce technology before developing a skills program for the in-house team. And finally, it's about developing processes. If you would like help with your digital transformation strategy, get in touch. Simply drop me an email to joanne@digitaltraining.ie.
Social media tool of the week.
The tool that saved my working week this week is Zapier. Everyone who knows JSB knows that I like to be organised and I love a good plan. That's why Zapier has been a welcome introduction into my life. Zapier allows you to move between your web apps automatically so you can focus on your most important work. Zapier is the glue that connects more than 750 web apps. Zaps are workflows that connect your apps so that they can work together. And Zaps start with a trigger, an event in one of your apps that kicks off your workflow. Zaps automate tasks in the background so that you can focus on more important work. If, like me, you like to be super organized, why not register your free account at zapier.com, and that's spelt ZAPIER.com. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 83 of JSB Talks Digital. As always, I have everything discussed on today's show on my award-winning blog at digitaltraining.ie. If you haven't already, you need to subscribe. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Libsyn, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. If you want to get in touch and suggest a topic for my show, then send me a tweet to @tweetsbyJSB. Post a comment on our Facebook page, Digital Training Institute. You can also snap me to JSB Snaps, or why not get in touch on Instagram? I'm JSB Grams. I'm Joanne Sweeney Burke. This is JSB Talks Digital. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.